beautiful parish of St. George. And, people always say that the Hi, my name is Alicia, and I grew up in the wonderful district of St. Jude's in the beautiful parish of St. George. And, people always say that the heart of any.
All right, it is 7:02 p.m. and it is therefore time for me to officially welcome you to the start of Ideas Forum, St. George edition. I'd like to invite the two MPs for St. George to the front, please. Thank you very much. And those of you who are standing on the outside of the tent, would you please join us on the inside? We have more than enough room for everyone to sit comfortably. Thank you. By way of housekeeping one final time, if you are planning to make a presentation tonight and you've not yet done so, please go to the table at the back of the room, give your name and the issue you're dealing with to the team from the Prime Minister's office. They will give you a number. That number will determine the order in which presentations are made. Additionally, note that there's a 5-minute window that is given for every presentation, but it can be varied by the moderators depending on its content. So with that, we will get going now with a video on St. George. Sit back, relax, enjoy the video, and get in the mood for the rest of the night. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia, and I grew up in the wonderful district of St. Jude's in the beautiful parish of St. George. And, people always say that the heart of anything is always the best. So, of course, St. George is the best parish there is in Barbados. It is the vital part because obviously the heart keeps everything going. When people want to get away from the stresses of life, where do they come? To St. George to make sure that everything is easy breezy. They can take in all this wonderful nature and of course just ease their mind and go back to where they come from. I had a lot of fun growing up in St. Jude's. I was probably one of 2 girls in my district, so of course I had all of my time with my brothers and their friends. So I did things like cricket, I did go-karting, not go-karting, but watching go-karting, and of course watching the fellas fall off the go-karts. I remember my brother and I, we had to stay in the house. That was the instructions that my mother gave. Stay in the house once, at nobody's home, just stay in the house. But of course, we were young, we didn't listen, and we used to go in superlative. And that's where the guys used to do a lot of the go-karting races, of course, homemade go-karts. And there was this house with these steps right in the corner. And I saw that go-kart claim the kneecaps, the elbows, the chins, the everything of some of these guys because not being able to control the go-kart, obviously, they fell and it claimed their body parts. That was fun for me to watch and laugh. And it was fun for them, obviously, to, enjoy life. My summers was my favorite because I got to do a lot of roast breadfruits. I got to do a lot of cricket. We played cricket with anything that we could put our hands on. If there wasn't a ball, we played with lemons, grapefruits, green coconut, sometimes even golf balls, just to have fun. And I think that that was the best part of growing up, just having that interaction. Roast breadfruits, as I said, we did that a lot. So we would eat roast breadfruit Sunday to Monday and back. Roast breadfruit and lemonade. And there was this particular guy in the district that anytime he felt like eating a roast breadfruit, he would go in the tree and he would not come down with just one, because obviously sharing a roast breadfruit between 50 people wasn't ever going to make it. So sometimes he used to come down with like 25 breadfruits, and from the time the fire started, everybody just came out. And I love that about our district. Some of the things that I would like to see happen is a community garden. I think that that would encourage the youth, the elders. The elders like to teach the children about doing certain things in the district. I think that's something that's missing right now. So doing a little community garden where we can all bond together and, buy some carrots, some beets, some okras, and just plant them in a little area where everybody would be able to reap the crops. I'm not just saying that this is something that one person does, but we can all join together as a community and do this, and it would take some of the burden from the supermarket. I think as well, having a little bit more empowerment program for the young men and women in the society, teaching them to do things that, they're not taught in schools. A lot of financial literacy, things that they can do with their hands other than, the negative stuff. Being able to do things like that, I think is something that is missing right now. And I think that it would be good, not just for St. George, but for Barbados overall.
I'm Danny. I'm a resident of St. George, and I've spent my whole life growing up in St. George. St. George is a place of fruits and fun. That's all I could think about, really and truly. Road tennis, cricket in the road, go-karting. I heard there's a go-karting competition coming up. But mainly, as a youngster, especially during summer vacation, the fun thing to do would just be going around in the neighborhood and asking the neighbors to have some of whatever fruit is in season. And throughout life, I found a love for nature. Now, one of my hobbies, I love to keep birds and fish. I sell them too as well, but mainly as a hobby for fun. And St. George has made me feel comfortable in such a sense that I have never really felt like moving to another parish. No offense to those other people, in Barbados, but I love my St. George place. It's nice, the air is fresh, and the water is great. The water is very, very good here in St. George. We do a lot of agriculture here. I find that it is kind of integrated into my childhood. I grew up raising chickens. I grew up pulling weeds from the garden, taking out the sheep, bringing in the cows. A lot of the things that I learned from agriculture and stuff growing up, helped me navigate my way through life. And I think that we should, I don't know what's going on in the schools now, but the agriculture programs, we need to have a lot more emphasis on them. It shouldn't just be plain plant things and grow things. We got to understand our ecosystem a lot better, learn what works and what doesn't work, and teach the children that it's not all about the fast food and stuff. We love grown food. Breadfruit is something that is very available in Barbados, and I think a lot of people need to get back to eating from the earth so that we can stay on the earth a little longer, you understand? Even if we could take areas that a lot of bushes growing on, and could maybe, it doesn't have to be as big, but recreate locations in Barbados, especially in St. George, like the botanical gardens, where we could utilize as parks, could even do it as events. It wouldn't just be a wooded and bushy area. It could even be planted with fruit trees. And I guarantee you, if you come into my neighborhood and you do something like that with one of the bushy spots, I would come out and maintain it. It's no questions asked, because that will become a treasure in my neighborhood for sure.
Coming up in St. George, growing up in St. George, it was a wonderful thing. Back in the day, we used to like go cart, and we used to go fishing in the pond and stuff. I find that the youths nowadays ain't really educated about these things, you know, and I would love that the older folks like myself and others to get together and get some youngsters to educate the youths about the days we had. We used to ride the carts and we used to get in the tubes and with the bicycle rims and the stick, and we would get all about the place and, like, you know, met the tractors out of metal, out of the cans. Yeah, them was wonderful things, man. And we used to even get the big tires, stand on them and roll and race and roll. Yeah, so I would let the youths know to be like more advanced in them things. There's still certain things that are going on now. Yeah, but in St. George is a wonderful place. It's a very wonderful place. Remember the days we used to go swimming in the ponds, you know, and then when we come home from swimming in the ponds now, our mothers now will beat me because we skin used to be white, you know, used to be white. So we come up with a trick now to trick the parents now. Don't mind the swimming in the pond was a dangerous thing, but we didn't know the dangers back then, but it was very, very dangerous. So what we used to do now, we used to get cream. So after coming out the pond and stuff, we used to get the cream and cream our skins now, you know. So we go home now feeling fresh, no licks at all. So that's one of the things we used to do to escape that judgment, you know. Roasting berry fruit in the neighborhoods, berry fruit and pigtails and salt fish, you know. Yeah, so one of the things I would like too is like governments and private sectors, you know, because, you know, one hand can't clap, many hands on deck will make light work, you know. So I would prefer, like, I would love for the government and private sectors to come together and, like, with some of the youngsters, with some of the older folks in the neighborhood, and, you know, we come up with a competition with the youths, like get some gold carrots and got a gold carrot competition, you know. You got a prize, a first prize, a second prize, a third prize, you know, and that will help the youths know, like, to think more positive, because instead of them out there so fussing and fighting, a man will say, well, look, I can get $500 if I win this gold carrot prize. So what I can do now, I can go and build the sweetest gold carrot I could ever build, you know, and look to win this prize. They want peace and love. So if we get together and build a stronger community for the youths, the children is the future, you know, the children is tomorrow. So we got to build the children all over again so we can get a better society. So please, I beg in the governments and private sectors to please help us in getting the youths back on track again, you know. That would be a wonderful thing.
I remember my lovely part of George when I was growing up by the church. It was a close-knit community. Everybody looks out for their one another. Our family, not only our family, the other people's families, every children's families, everybody was in one. So you can't do nothing and expect to go and tell your mother's such a thing. If anybody can give you a lash, anything. It was most a close-knit community. We play upon the night, parents and children play together, and we have our recreation was like go-karts and we them cause kind of things. So we will play. We used to have a lot of fun. We have no violence. Growing up, I never heard of no violence in the part of St. George. I was on the Glebe, and I never hear. Then I moved to Erie Hill, and down here is the mostly a community all together. The other people come in now, but otherwise it was just. If I made parish is a lovely parish. It's part of St. George, and most of the things that we have is that the children could get back to church, mostly church. Because the one thing we have to be at church all the time, but no, we don't have any children ask parents. Parents ask children if they want to go to church. So that is one of the main things that if we could get back, if we could have get back the younger people to church. And then some activities, some more activities.
My name is Rukti Paris, and I am from Salters, St. George. I remember in my youth, we used it to repair cricket wickets. So when vacation coming around, we use it to roll, cut, water, and prepare our wickets. What we use it to do as well is get youngsters from Flat Rock Mylor Sill, Church Bottom, Lears, and we use it to roast breadfruit, also lime and sugar with water. All those things we use it to put together and play cricket the whole day. I would like to see the generation of between 8 and 15 or 21 coming together and make the community a safe and livable space that everyone could be comfortable in this space. Cracking jokes, sitting down up underneath the street light and playing dominoes, playing cards, playing draft. We had a wonderful time playing draft underneath the street light. And raising livestock. Another thing I would like to see come back to this community is raising livestock. I remember running down sheep, running down goat, pulling out cow, staking down steak in the rain. And we don't have that anymore. Yes, everybody looking to develop, but there's land that we could also look at occupying where it comes to livestock and so on. Chickens and pigs, and because the houses are so closely knit, we can't really do the in-house livestock, but there are areas that we can also look at if we can get the help, that we could almost lease a piece of land and look at making a holistic come together. Let me say 10-15 boys, and we do pigs, we do chickens and so on, like the primary school and also the secondary schools to have evening things that children and adults can go to and spend that quality time. I believe that time between 4:30 and 7 o'clock can be well spent with the youngsters and engaging them in educational stuff. You know, you don't really like the sitting down of it, but there are activities that we can put in place that could warm their hearts and bring them together. Let me say, provide an avenue that can keep them coming back. And as long as you can keep them coming back and wanting more, I think that we can get 110% out of the youngsters in the neighborhood. The educational system, I would like to see, yes, we do some 2-hour programs on evenings that we can engage in. It may not be book work, but who want to do book work? Yes, book work, but little plumbing and carpentry and so on. So in that, the guy that want to dig wells, he will learn how to dig a well. To hammer a board or cut a board, they will learn how to do that. Those are the kind of things that I would like to see come back to this community. Thank you.
Yeah, blessed be to all. You know, I just here to, I trying to enlighten everybody about the farming and them things to try to keep the youth from problems, because I start this thing here in North Carolina, so I want to show them I build this up for the youths. So this is how we're trying to get a lot of problems in St. George. We ain't really got no problems, man. The youths in St. George fairly good, so I would like you to get the agriculture thing going again. That's the truth. Yeah, and as you can see here, I got a set of fruit trees planted as well. Like, I think we got a lot of lands in St. George, like, employ the youths, you know, like some minimum wage, we clear off the lands and pay them to plant some fruit trees to be beautify St. George again. You know, we got like 100 trees planted already, and we aim is like 500 trees. You know, this is the sour salt. We aim is to plant 500 trees. If we clear over some of these lands in St. George and beautify them with fruits, that would be great. You know, you will get the youth from in trouble, man. Show them a better way from start. This is the cherries. You know, we got further down, we got apples, Yeah, we gotta get these programs up and running. Up and running. The young farmer, and he's doing very well, you know. So let me try to encourage the youth in agriculture, and let me get this crime and violence out the way. Don't let come and run St. George at all.
Thank you. Now I'll turn you over to Alex Downs and Tahir Bulbulia, who are your joint hosts for tonight. They will guide you through the rest of the proceedings.
Thank you so much, Roy. And good night to everyone. Good night to St. George. As you have heard from Roy, these are the idea forums. My name is Alex Downs. I'm the Prime Minister's Press Secretary. To my left is a face, or rather a voice that I know many of you would be familiar with, Mr. Tahir Babulia.
Good night, everyone. A pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be alongside Alex. Looking forward to all the ideas coming from St. George. And I'm happy to see everyone here early and on time. So it promises to be an exciting night. And you see some of the ideas here in the document. So definitely looking forward to it.
Yes, certainly. So as you've heard, this is your opportunity to share, not just with the government, but with the public and the communities in St. George. You know, your ideas for how you can make it a better parish and a better community overall. So we welcome you to come to share your ideas. As you've heard, if you do have an idea, there's a table at the back where you can just make a note so that we have a list of the ideas and we can help you build them out. And if you do hear something tonight, also feel free to think about it. And if it burns deep inside you and you have an idea from it, feel free to come up and share as well. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the first speaker to the microphone, which we have here to my left, your right, Mr. Jonathan Collymore. The floor is yours.
Please give him a big round of applause and welcome him.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Collymore, Price Road, St. George. There's a structure here, what's called the market. From the time it was constructed, I had a problem with it. And I'm glad that the ministers actually facing it. Now, what I realized about that market, it don't bring any attraction at all. At all, at whatsoever measure you could ever try to measure. If you want to use a tape measure or a rod, you could do it. Now, one, I had a problem with the roof. Sometimes I just wanted to know these people that design things, what we really be thinking. What they can do to make the roof more enhanceable for a lot of other purposes, solar panel. If you look across here, tell me what part a solar panel could hold on that roof. None. It don't have any attraction for the amount of vehicles that pass through this area. As a friend of mine tell me that you got to put a Chevette or Kentucky up there in order to get people up there. Right? Because one of the ways to do it, get a boat and do it, get back who design if they're still living, call them back. And try to actually get a more better design into it. And that roof, look, when that first built, I was a youngster, and I had a bet that that can get trouble. If anybody could tell me from the ministry that they don't get problems, well, that's the part that them know. One of the ways to go about it, and as I would say, is get the technocrats to put together something and come up with it so that it could make it a better, let the villagers, don't just go by the technocrats, let the community have a say in what they want in it.
Mr. Collymore,
and how they need it.
Pause for 1 second. Forgive me for interrupting. I want you to change course for a minute. I don't want to stop you from talking about the market.
Yeah.
What I want you to do, this is Ideas Forum, so we want to take a positive approach.
Yeah.
So you recognize that there are challenges.
Challenges,
You live in the area, you recognize what is wrong with it. What I want you to do is to outline to us what you would like to see done with the market as opposed to telling us what is wrong with it.
Okay. First, if it could be a way where they can remove the roof and put a flat structure, that could work. Next, they can do, in order to make it more attractive, right? Beautify it some more, because right now, what we can do with it, it could, with the amount of vehicles that pass St. George, that could be a lot of business opportunity for a lot of people. And I know because it is not in a hidden area, it's up on the incline. So what it could do with it is try to get as much much onto it coming across to the other side. With the car park that I have there is fine. All right? And the amount of, and this is what I'm saying, if you put different businesses in there, not all one, because if you put all food, not so. What it can do is make sure they got a bit of everything inside there, and that can go a long way instead of putting food. But I would say this here for sure. All right? If you're doing it, you understand, it must be done in a way that to actually don't have much problems whatsoever.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Collymore. You have another point? Or?
Yeah, my next point is that with the crime that we have in, I realize that our police force would have to be upgraded a bit. One of my ways of upgrading it is having some equipment. Now, when you call a police officer to a shooting, and he get in a vehicle that anything, a stone can get through, he's not going to feel comfortable. Instead of going looking for a commercial vehicle that look a bit stylish, you have to make the guys inside there feel safe. There's not other shortcut with it. Because I can tell you, when you actually in a vehicle and you're going to anything that can cause injury, and you in a vehicle that's safe, that is one of the things that's going to make you react better. If you're in a vehicle that you're frightened, but there's much you could do when you get out. But if you're able to get out, but if you're in a paper tiger, like a vehicle, like whatever, you call out a police officer, he's going to be let things. So what to do? Get there's vehicles, that armored vehicles, that the fellas can use for the night or use anytime. If there's anything they have to respond to, they can go and enter. If a vehicle actually get into a situation where it get gunshots coming at it, well, the fellas saying it stop. But at the time for there to get from here to there, let it get out there safe. It didn't make no sense that you be driving in something that where you could put a rock, it could go from one side to the next. And the next thing, if a police officer have enough training, and I never hear about indoor shooting range yet, but the Attorney General could make sure that these guys, because with these 6 years not coming now, you can go draw a firearm regular. So, it may be about it.
Mr.
But
Collymore,
when a guy have a firearm.
Mr. Collymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but I just want to ask, just along the lines of what Mr. Morris was asking, I think we understand, your first point in particular with the market, and then obviously the second point focusing on crime and how it then affects, not just the society, but the police force as well. So just taking your point, if we could understand from you what your suggestions on how we can improve the situation or address the situation with crime, specifically. So you raised the point of maybe armored vehicles.
Yes.
I'm not an expert in the criminal crime fighting. I don't know if you are. Training. But if there's something that you could offer, I guess, to address the holistic problem, because you sound like a man from the community of St. George. Yeah. So you sound like you have a vested interest in these things. So just to help us, I guess, open the ideas forum with that component of, assisting, how can we get this from here to where you want it to be?
Okay. Now, with the whole policing, you cannot, and what we would like to see them be doing when they come on the streets, you got to feel it from within yourself. 1, and 2, once I know that they're getting the training that they should be getting, I of myself will feel comfortable too. But at the end of the day, you know, with how the attorneys would be, you know, you got to do things a certain way. And no matter what you do, these fellas would be trained, and I know that there's training that they could get that will be like that. They could get really efficient. And I know it's not hard, it's just that they're going to have to be exposed to the training more rigorously, and that part would be quite fine with me. But for right now, the way how crime going, then I know that the stretch out.
Mr. Colmer, I want to thank you for your opening tonight. Again, I'm not an expert in the area, but I would recognize that, you know, there is quite a bit of training that goes on in the police service.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like anything else in life, you can always improve. So I take that angle from your points. You know, there is obviously that ways that you can go, but I would like to at least assure you in that, from my knowledge, that there is a very high level of training that goes into the force. So I don't know if that, for example, may allay your concerns, but...
Yes, I quite agree with you that they do. Yep. And if you if you don't have the facilities, the training won't go much further. I'm not trying to put this down. You must have the facility. You could you could put all the training on paper. If you don't have the facility, it's going to die short.
You take your point, sir. But I want to thank you, Ms. Colmer, for opening. You've raised some points I'm sure we may hear throughout the night, but again, I appreciate you for coming up and opening strong.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you.
I want to introduce Kim Bourne to the podium, so please give her a big round of applause. So just state your name and where in St. George you're from. If your family member wants to stay with you, she can as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, she's helping me as my eyesight is impaired. Thank you. My name is Kim Bourne, and I'm a landowner in Rowan, St. George. I actually was born in New York City and always enjoyed the best of both worlds. Was my grandmother, who lived in St. James and farmed to take care of herself, would have me here with her until I was about 5 years old, but when it was time to go to school, she shipped me back off to the United States to live with my mom. But for those formative years when I was here and she did her farming, I regretted that she would always stay inside and read a book while she was out doing the farming. And so fast forward now to when COVID came, I had the pleasure of being in St. George. Everybody laughs when they find that I'm in St. George because I'm a beach freak. So they laughed and I'm in the parish without the beach. But the Ocean of Green in St. George is fantastic. I just hosted a Legacy Capacity Summit inviting many of my colleagues and friends to Barbados to just see how beautiful the island is and look forward to building on that. I don't know if our Prime Minister is here yet, but I do want to acknowledge her. There's not a month that goes by in the US that someone doesn't text me or call me and say, I see your Prime Minister again. You know, she's on the world stage. She's focusing on the issues that are important: climate change, education. And I'm happy that I'm here at this time for this forum because I think each citizen, we can engage and support the work of our Prime Minister. The purpose of the Legacy Capacity Summit that I hosted, bringing folks primarily from the US here, is to really see where are we going with this. You know, my kids, they've had the pleasure of driving the drive more and cutting the grass on about 2 acres, but what is really going to be sustainable? How are we educating our kids? I mean, many people I think might be similar to my grandmother. Go inside, read a book. Everybody is not going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a financial advisor like myself. And we do need to revisit how it is that we're educating children. Artificial intelligence is taking over many things. So where is there space in the educational system to teach young people about agriculture, especially if you're going home and your parents are not as enthusiastic about that, because it can be grueling, and we know that. So I'm curious about, you know, initiatives that we can get to bring more tourism to St. George. because when I hosted the summit, it was at the Hilton, there were friends of mine that wanted to come to St. George and get the fruits off the trees. There's a lot of talk about living in the blue zone and living past 100, and St. George is perfect for that type of lifestyle. So there are tourists that come that do want to experience Barbados differently. Secondly, when we think about educating children beyond incorporating education in agriculture, there's also the arts. The summit is, because it's going to be an annual event, and the legacy that we chose to uphold is the legacy of Dr. Maya Angelou. And we will be doing that over the next 4 years. And so I was again excited about our partnership with the Ministry of Cultural Affairs and looking forward to see how we can incorporate more art in what students are learning in Barbados. Just like agriculture, art sometimes seems like it gets pushed by the wayside. I've learned that we yet have a National Art Museum or National Art Gallery, but delighted to hear from Senator Dr. Chantel Monroe that that is something that's being focused on, and looking to make sure that it is a world state-of-the-art space that is accessible. One of the organizations that partnered with us is the Deaf House in Barbados, and wanting to make sure that, especially now that my eyesight is also impaired, that as we build infrastructure and we create this fantastic art gallery, that it is going to be accessible to everyone, regardless of their capacity. Those are two of the key issues, and I would say other ideas for people like myself, people who are part of the diaspora, but spent about 9 months here during COVID, and thankful that I could come to a country where the government was sensible, nobody was injecting Clorox, people took curfews and masks seriously. It was just a haven for me. And I'm thinking, what other things we can do to engage Barbadians who are outside of Barbados to really come back, to give back in meaningful ways. And we hosted the summit. We're going to do it again next June. We made sure that it is hybrid, so wanting to find ways that other Barbadians who may not be able to pay to come to the summit or get to the hotel because it only has about so much capacity, but being able to connect virtually and being able to contribute ideas for a better Barbados. So thank you for hosting tonight. Look forward to having more conversations, figuring out how we can really put a lot of what was already set into place with agriculture, getting more young people involved and passionate about agriculture. I think as we also have to stop criticizing the young people and capacitate them more by not complaining about what they do, but teaching them how to do the things we would like to see them do. So thank you.
So thank you so very much, Ms. Bourne. Just 1 minute, just have one question for you. I commend
Absolutely.
you for coming to the podium and sharing your ideas, and I commend you for coming home and also bringing people to Barbados as part of the summit. So I really commend you for that. I'm looking from the outside in, as you said, you're now come back home and what's not. What are some of those opportunities that you see in terms of bringing tourism to St. George?
Yeah, I think I don't know, has anyone seen that Netflix series, Living Past 100, and the whole concept of the blue zone? Are we familiar with that? I mean,
a few people are.
Few people are. Well, I mean, we have a blue zone right here in St. George. Who's that?
I'm not sure if that person is speaking to us.
Okay. Yeah, so I think, lifting up the centenarians that are here, most of whom will say that they are able to live vivaciously by eating more ground foods, less processed foods, more plant-based foods. One of the people that attended summit, she eats, a complete plant-based diet, and she was running all through our little farm in St. George, fascinated with the soursop and just fascinated with the mangoes. So there is an opportunity to bring more tourism to St. George, but you have to sell the sizzle, right? It all comes down to marketing, and that is what the summit is about. Well, one of the films that we screened during the summit this year is called Gaining Ground, The Fight for Black Land. It talks about how farmers are being disenfranchised. It focuses more on the southern part of the United States, but this is a problem all over, where in land and heirs property, people are not, documenting things properly, so that land is being inherited. A lot of that is contributing to the racial wealth gap, but it also affects tourism. So if we, really think about St. George differently and realize that, yes, the beaches are nice, but there are people that are very concerned about their health. They want to eat a more plant-based diet. There's a lot of vegans. We have to use that language to attract more tourism here, and then to someone else's point, make sure that the markets and the local, people when they come to the village, that they can enjoy and purchase and invest in St. George.
Thank you so very much, Kim. Please give her a big round of applause. We also want to remind you that this is the month we'll be gathering in St. George, so they had lots of activities. So feel free to participate. I think the calendar is up on social media as well, so you can check it out on the We Gathering socials and see the opportunities that they have going on in St. George currently. You can also feel free to engage with the two MPs that are here for St. George. St. George South and St. George North, so you can engage with them and share some ideas with them and see what are the possibilities as well. So thank you very much, Kim. We're going to go to a video presentation at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Tahir. No, you can't come to St. George and not talk agriculture. And that's the point at which Kim ended. The St. George Valley, St. George generally, is perhaps the most fertile part of Barbados. And agriculture has been a mainstay. So I just want you to watch a video here. We didn't give the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Education or Tertiary Education notice, but this video is from them, and it should be eye-opening in terms of what it presents, in terms of the opportunities that may be available. Selwyn, over to you.
The Institute is being built in partnership with the government of the People's Republic of China, a key part of Barbados' effort to modernize agricultural education and boost national food security.
HOPE is going to be our agricultural institute that will help to provide agricultural science training for students at the tertiary level. And this will help replace the efforts that are ongoing at SJPI, BCC, BVTB, all gathered in one division. It is our hope that eventually that agricultural institute will become part of our university college. So Barbados is now set to be able to reach out and refresh and renew our farming community. Many of our farmers are over the age of 55. We are hoping that with the establishment of these two institutes, we are going to be able to refresh our farming population by offering young people the opportunity to learn smart climate agriculture, to give them the opportunity to specialize in any area of agriculture that they're interested in, as well as we are going to be able to retool our existing farmer population. Along with that, we'll be able to provide the Ministry of Agriculture with all of the skills that they need. We have a relationship that we're building with the University of the West Indies at St. Augustine, and this will allow us to offer from a general certificate through to a diploma, through to a bachelor's degree, master's, postgraduate studies. All of these will now be available to Barbadians right here in Barbados and in conjunction with St. Augustine UWI. So we are looking forward to receiving the property at Hope. We are hoping to receive that by September, and we want to look forward to starting our classes in January 2026. This has been a gift to the people of Barbados by the Chinese, and we want to sincerely thank them for making this tremendous investment that will help to take agriculture, agricultural education, and food security further along its path.
Barbados stands to benefit from this project in ways that we cannot imagine. In this 21st century, if you're not moving into the era of technology and innovation, you are not going to be able to keep pace. And I have personally seen for the past 7 years how our stakeholders have really struggled with the requirements of a 21st century agricultural sector. And therefore, at the core of all of it is training. And the fact that we can now train our people to transition them from the past to a modern era that speaks to how we are now going to be able to continue the great work we've done. And you all do know that Barbados was one of the leaders in agriculture back in the day when sugar was king, also back in the time when cotton was great. And those days are long past us. But what we do have for us now is an opportunity to use our young minds to get them to take us to where we need to go to in terms of agro-processing. And that is the reason why the training that will take place here will give us that opportunity to train up our people, and then over at Jukes to get people who are involved in agriculture to see it as a business and to be able to treat it as such, having every confidence that what they're doing will reap them return on investment. And that Jukes project is, I mean, we can talk all we want, it is exactly what is required to give people an opportunity to feel and experience what it's like to turn a primary agricultural product into an actual value chain product. And these to me are the critical things that a government needs to do. And I'm pleased to be part of this administration working with Minister Husband to make sure that this becomes a reality for Barbados. Improving food security has its limitations. With this facility now we can look at scale. Previously, you had a lot of things happening. And it's a fairly complex and highly dynamic environment. On one minute you have too much of a crop, so you got spoilage. And another minute you don't have enough, so you got shortages. Those matters will be solved right here now once we have a facility like this. Because you're not just looking at primary product, you're looking at how you can move that product through to storage, improving shelf life, teaching people how to be able to process. You know, it's the answer to all the challenges that we've been having.
The Barbados Institute of Food and Agriculture isn't standing alone. Also set to come on stream is the new Agri-Industrial Park, a partnership between the University of the West Indies and the Government of the People's Republic of China. At Duke's Plantation in St. Thomas, a state-of-the-art agro-processing facility is taking shape, featuring a living laboratory for applied research.
At Jukes, we have some 28.5 acres and about 13 buildings, and this will be given over to the University of the West Indies, where they will find the opportunity to be able to do the type of agricultural research that we can innovate, develop new products, that we can provide skills training in various areas that are important for agricultural production, where we can do agro-processing, and all of this is going to help support us in being able to develop export-led growth in agriculture, as well as in agro-food processing. So there's going to be a continuous relationship between the Ministry of Training and Tertiary Education and UE in that effort at Jukes.
Progress may have slowed briefly in the early stages, but the project is now advancing steadily.
What we've had over the time that it has been under construction, we've been able to set up a number of the buildings. At the moment, the government is now installing the electricals and a couple of other utility services for the property. And then the Chinese are going to finish the building in providing us with a number of additional elements to help make that project work really, really well. So we're very pleased that we are continuing that process to bring us to completion.
The goal isn't just to train, it's to transform. With facilities like BIFA and the Dukes Agri-Industrial Park, Barbados is laying the foundation for a new generation of agri-entrepreneurs who can take their produce from the ground to global markets. But the vision goes even further, one that reaches into our tourism sector, our homes, and even our health.
We're certainly going to be a leader because there's only one facility in the region similar to this, and I don't think that is at the same scale as this one. And equally, we're going to have an opportunity now for people to be able to look at what they can export. So if I wanted to create an Indarware brand to export, here's the opportunity now at Jukes for me to be able to do that. So that we now start to realize that we can now have a society of entrepreneurs in agriculture due to the training that Minister Husband made available to us, but equally because they can now see the real business And because they have had the opportunity to experience the training and the use of the technology, the agro-processing, seeing what it really means to go to the value chain, that is where we're going to have a different society. And that is where the enfranchisement, economic enfranchisement that we've been speaking about, clearly kicks in with our people.
One of the things we want to tackle is to be able to help the hotel industry to start to use the produce that we produce. But they can't do it right now because we've not been able to get our farmers to be able to operate in a way that gives them sustainable sizes, quality, and so on. So through the training of our farmers and then the new farmers coming up is going to empower Minister Ware to be able to work now with the Ministry of Tourism and the hotel industry and the restaurants to be able to use some of this produce which we are going to be looking at. And because of how we're doing it, they're going to be able to do the bulk production by using smart techniques. You're not using as much of the open field. You're going to be able to produce a lot more on smaller spaces, so it means the volume is going to be possible. But what is of even greater interest for me is that the average householder can come and take a short course.
Thank you very much. The full video is available online. You can get it on the BGIS website, or you can get it as part of the video for tonight's event through PMO's website or through PMO on YouTube. I'll turn back over to you, Alex.
Thanks so much, Roy, and thanks for sharing that video as well, because I think sometimes it's good to see the work that's being done on the ground. And as you can see, based on the video at Duke's, that 25.8 acres, some fantastic work is going into there. And Kim, I think to your point, you're now able to see that there are plans for having that link between agriculture and tourism. So I'm sure, like you all, I am very excited to see how that develops. So again, you can keep that in mind as we go forward. And the link with education. Thanks, Tahir. So at this point, I'd like to welcome our next speaker that we have listed, Naomi Dummett. Give Naomi a round of applause, please.
I think y'all could do better than that for Naomi, man. Come on. Naomi, where do you go to school?
I go to Light Primary School.
Okay, lovely. You can go ahead. You have the floor.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Prime Minister. Good night to all the other ministers. My name is Naomi Riley Dumet, and I'm here to make our community Barbados better. Number 1, police patrol. We should have more police on patrol, so when bad guys see them, they will stop their bad activities. Number 2, we should make sure that people do their job at all the ports properly and make sure that they do not bring in any guns. Number 3, we should restore our historic buildings. So when people like me or tourists want to come around and see the buildings, they can. We should also have a national film or a gift shop. Number 5, we have to have a national cleanup day so our community can be cleaner. My name is Naomi Riley Dumet, and thank you for letting me share my ideas with
you. Naomi, thank you so much for coming up here and confidently and boldly sharing with us. You've raised some excellent points, and I think perhaps the last one you raised, I realized a number of people in the audience seem to agree with you on a National Cleanup Day. You know, there was a video I think I saw last week with someone from overseas remarking about how clean Barbados is. And that's not by accident. That's not by chance. That's because, you know, the Prime Minister says sometimes cleanliness is next to godliness. I think if we can start to take on some of the points that Naomi would have raised, then perhaps we will see a change in society that will benefit all of us. So Naomi, thank you so much. You really made a mark tonight.
So next up, we have a group presentation from Kenisha Hunt and Shamika as well. And their topic is on education and culture. So please welcome them to the podium.
Protocol already established by Naomi. Good evening. My name is Kenisha Hunt. I reside in Drexel, St. George. My teammate and I, we are students of the Arts and Entertainment Management course at the Barbados Community College. Our idea emerged from our small business and entrepreneurship course, which is taught by Mr. Knight and Mrs. Lane. Before we begin, we will extend our gratitude to Mr. Tayer, who recommended that we present our idea on this forum. Our product is entitled Echoes of BIM, A Historical Journey. Some of our team members weren't able to make it, but I will shout them out. They are Abigail Williams, Darian Weftali, Dario Waldron, and this is Shanika, and as you know, I am Kenisha Hunt. Echoes of BIM was inspired by a challenge we see presently in Barbados. Our Prime Minister, Mia Motley, emphasized how important it is for Barbadians to understand their history in order to build a strong sense of pride and national identity. Many Barbadian educators and historians have noted that within Generation Z and Alpha, there is a deficiency in historical knowledge, for example, events, places, and figures. Traditional resources such as the library and museums are seldomly occupied by the younger generation due to the increased usage of technology. Research has shown that on an average day, younger individuals spend at least 6 hours on their phone and maybe higher. This indicates that the future of our nation prefers to receive information and to be educated through digital means. Traditional means of learning history can be viewed as overwhelming or just plain boring to the younger generation, and a more effective style of teaching using technology is more appealing. Echoes of BIM fulfills the need of the government and the youth by merging the need for cultural, historical awareness, and entertainment in a digital form. Echoes of BIM is a mobile game which incorporates features of virtual reality, and immersive storytelling to effectively educate users about the history of Barbados. Echoes of BIM services are catered to students, teachers, historical buffs, gamers, tourists, and Caribbean cultural enthusiasts. These are individuals who are interested in learning about Barbados' history and culture by using conventional tools which strive to blend education, tourism, and entertainment to further enable and enrich minds. Echoes of BIM uses creative methods such as interactive historical quests and challenges in order to educate their users. Let us take you through how the game can be played. Upon opening the game, you are prompted to select a historical quest. For example, the Buster Rebellion, the Amerindian Revival, or Independence Day. Step 2 is to create your own character depending on the era you have selected. You can either become a villager, a merchant, or a slave or artisan. Step 3, explore Barbados using the virtual map to explore the island. Visit real-life locations such as Bridgetown, Oistins, and Queen's Park in that era. Step 4, to complete quests and challenges assigned, users will have to solve puzzles and riddles which are related to the events they have selected. And step 5, you earn points to unlock badges, new storylines, historical facts, and different costumes of the past era. Our proposition, value, and innovation. Echoes of BIM aims to educate, inspire, and empower through interactive storytelling that preserves and promotes Barbadian history and culture, making learning engaging, accessible, and deeply meaningful for all. Echoes of BIM transforms Barbadian history into an interactive, engaging, and adventure empowering learners, inspiring cultural pride, and making education fun through game-based learning and exploration. Our key value elements. We believe that our product will have an educational impact. Aligned with the Caribbean curriculum, for example, CXC and CAPE, the game teaches historical knowledge and cultural awareness in an engaging format ideal for school and personal learning. This style of learning will be an excellent addition to our developing education reform strategy. Cultural relevance. The game showcases the authentic Barbadian heritage, events, figures, and landmarks, making it a source of national pride and identity. Accessible technology. Echoes of BIM is a mobile-friendly and off-capable game, removing the need for high-end devices or VR, which widens the accessibility for students and casual players. Gamified learning. Quests, achievements, and storytelling elements make learning history enjoyable, memorable, and interactive. Tourism and diaspora appeal. The game serves as a digital guide and educational tool for tourists and Barbadians abroad to reconnect with the island's legacy. I will now transfer to my colleague who will go further into the game.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. In our strategic planning, we have identified the strengths and opportunities of developing Echoes of BIM. Some of the strengths we identified are the game has a unique focus on Barbadian heritage. It creates strong cultural partnerships. It has unique local focus. First of its kind, educational game centered on Barbadian history and culture. It also has educational value, and the intention is to align with the school's curriculum, promoting historical knowledge in a fun and interactive way. There's cultural relevance, where it helps preserve and promote national identity and pride, as well as there's an accessible design and versatile use, which makes it suitable for classrooms, self-paced learning, diaspora outreach, as well as tourism. Some of the opportunities we identified are the regional expansion. There is scope for scaling to include other Caribbean nations and themes. Curriculum integration. There is a potential to partner with ministries of education and schools for a wide adoption. Tourism sector tie-ins. It can be used by the museums, tour companies, and visitor centers as educational tools. Digital sales potential. There's an opportunity to launch on mobile app stores and platforms such as Steam, Google Play, and the App Store. And then there are also opportunities for grants and sponsorship, as we believe that we would be eligible for cultural, educational, and tech innovation funding. Next, we'll go on to tell you a bit about how we intend to market the game. We have identified 3 major target markets. The first market is students between the ages of 13 and 20. These are students who are searching for fun and interactive ways in which they can learn history. Next, we are targeting educators who are between the ages of 25 and 45, or maybe even younger, and who are excited to incorporate innovative digital tools into the curriculum. In addition, we are looking at historical buffs, cultural enthusiasts, and tourists between the ages of 19 and 45. Next slide. We have created a multi-layered promotional strategy which combines digital, traditional, and community-focused approaches. So there's social media marketing, in which we plan to use Instagram, TikTok, where we post behind-the-scenes videos, characters, introductions, user reactions, and even historical facts. On YouTube, we want to promote story trailers and did you know segments about Bajan history. Facebook and Twitter, are used for event announcements, trivia, and partnership updates. Collaborations with local influencers, educators, Caribbean content creators would also allow us to demonstrate the game and promote it to their followers as well. We would also like to tap into the educational system directly by offering custom lesson plans, free trials for teachers, and in-school presentations and demos. To build buzz in real life, we hope to host pop-up booths, such as at events such as the Barbados Museum, NIFCA, BMEX, and CariFesta, which is a major cultural and trade event happening in Barbados this year. And from my personal research, I've seen that we're doing a lot in terms of adding a technological aspect to it. So we can definitely see that the need and the want is in Barbados at this point for things like these. Next slide. Promoting our business doesn't end there. We are also sticking to our roots by using traditional media with radio interviews, television appearances, and local newspaper features. Echoes of BIM also plans to host giveaways, which include game currency, exclusive merch, or bonus missions. We also host fan art competitions in which users design characters or reimagine historic scenes, and finally, leaderboard prizes, encouraging early adoption and competition. Strong partnerships are also a key element to promote the game. Partners such as the BTMI, the Ministry of Education, Technological Transformation and Vocational Training, cultural agencies and local museums and heritage sites all allow for cross-promotion, cultural curriculum integration, and travel and cultural ties. Through the use of email marketing, we plan to collect contact info during demos and events and send out monthly newsletters with historical facts, updates, and new features. Additionally, our press and PR efforts are focused on launching a press release, features in Caribbean tech and edutainment blogs. We have a detailed budget prepared, which we can share at a later date, and we are keen to source funds from some of the public funds available to enable cultural, educational, and technological projects. So in closing, Echoes of BIM represents more than just a game. It is a bridge between the past, the present, and future generations, blending education, culture, entertainment, and technology to offer students, educators, cultural enthusiasts, and tourists a unique and engaging way to explore our heritage. We invite you to join us on this journey to preserve, celebrate, and share the echoes of our past as we shape the future of education and culture in Barbados and beyond. Thank you so much for listening.
Kadisha and Shamika, I genuinely mean it when I say this. I want to commend you for coming up here. Oftentimes, let's give them a round of applause. Oftentimes we hear, a lot of negative talk as it pertains to our young people. And what I've just heard is a deeply thought out plan that crosses over education, technology, business, culture, history, so many areas that are of critical importance to our country. And I regret, obviously, your other team members couldn't be here, but I'm sure that they also are equally as proud as you of the job you've done. I have one question for you. As a young person, the area that you focused on, what is it about that area that you found so important that you felt it needed to be gamified or taught in schools, or as young people you needed to learn a bit more about it? Because usually we would find that people more gravitate towards entertainment, they like to be on the phones, on TikTok and so on. But you've clearly identified that it's important for us to understand our history and our culture. Just want to find out from you as a young person, why is that?
Well, I'll go first. My name is Shanika Burnett, and I am most known in Barbados as a fashion designer. I call myself a child of the cultural industries. I grew up attending all of the craft markets, going to all of the cultural celebrations from Kiddies, Kadooment, Junior Calypso Monarch, Carrie Festa. I attended the Village of Hope in, I think it was 1996 or something, so aging myself here. But I have spent my entire life wrapped in culture, and I feel like it has enriched my life. And I think that enough younger people either don't know or don't seem to have the interest in it. And I think that that's because they're unaware of how much a part of us it is. So I personally thought that this was important because I always felt that culture was very, very important. It is, you know, Sanko for you look back to look forward and to go forward. And I think it's very, very important even to address a lot of the issues that we have today in terms of understanding who we were, and hopefully that could help us better cultivate who we want to be and who we are becoming.
I echo my teammates. Get it? Yeah, echo. I echo my teammates' sentiments. For me personally, when I go to the library, I still go, Bridgetown Library, I'm a member. There are hardly any young persons there. My parents were very instrumental in having me go to the library from the time I was a very young child. And I actually did history as one of my courses at Barbados Community College. And persons were interested in it, but at times reading all of that information, as we would have said, it can be a bit overwhelming. But if we make it a fun learning experience for children, and as you can see, children are already hooked on their phones. Like, it's just a thing. It's a normal thing to go scrolling for hours and hours on end before gaining any educational value. So if we could make this game possible, in order for our students to know a bit about their history, that would be extremely wonderful. And also, there is a lack of, I want to say, note-taking or like recording our history. So many things has happened. I know there is a program today in Bajan history, but we could add some of these elements also in the game as well. So that is my take.
I don't think we finished with y'all yet. You gotta get some pressure. So I really want to commend y'all, and ladies and gentlemen, I had the privilege to hear this presentation in their class, and I want to highlight their teachers to the right, Miss Trudy. You can stand, and I believe that is Miss Millington. And Timothy is here as well. So their teachers really came out to support them. So when I heard it, I was blown away. And I really want to commend Kenisha specifically, because in class, she was nervous. So to come here tonight, I really want y'all to give Kenisha a big round of applause. Shanika is a pro at this. So we have the Minister of Education here, and also Minister Sandra Husbands as well. So feel free, Chad, Minister Chad, you can give some feedback, ask any questions. You can use my mic.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody. Firstly, let me say how pleased I was to hear the presentation from both of you. Not only well thought out, but quite timely. The ministry right now is in the process of course, the transformation exercise, reforming the curricula. And part of that exercise requires of us to reimagine how do we teach education in a modern Barbados with our values, ideas, bringing to the fore who we are. And you've outlined in a very clear way how you can do that. The second aspect that is pleasing is that entertainment, of course, is part of who we are as a people. And therefore, the education system and the ministry, I want to work with you to see how we can build it out in two ways. You've asked for the mainstream ministry to work with you so that part of what we're learning or what the students are going to learn is going to be a day-to-day reality. But the exercise of education has to go beyond school hours and school frameworks. So I think the skill set that you're trying to engineer here, there's a confluence with our agenda and yours. And what do I mean? Children, when they go home and they're not in school hours, should be going to this type of initiative so that there is a process here and there's a process there. So that at the end of the day, our students are getting that knowledge. So edutainment, technology, culture really is something that we have to do. And the whole aspect of expanding it to the region, I think, will also bear significant dividends in the context of our integration exercise. It can't just be Europe and the African Union that is doing it. The Caribbean now has to move to this level. You spoke just now, rightly so. Back in the day, my parents paid high premium for me to go to the library. I visited the library a couple of weeks ago for an event, and you're right, there are not many young people doing it, but they're every day on their devices. So I think your initiative can help the country to bring our education system into not just the 21st century, but bring it to where our young people are. And over the next few months, I think something like this should really be rolled out once we can have all the necessary checks and balances. A good partner also would be the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, led by Minister Reid, because as you said, technology is at the fore of this exercise. But I just simply want to commend you, and after this forum has concluded tonight, it would be good for us to have a tete-a-tete to see how we can try to roll it out. All right?
Thank you.
So Minister Husbands, I believe, she's smiling from ear to ear, so. And CEO Hill from Export Barbados is here as well. So I know in your initial presentation, you had a grant from Export Barbados, so that is a possibility as well. So you can have a conversation with him. Minister Husbands.
Yes, thank you so very much. And I want to say how proud I am of the two of you. As students of BCC, they're really representing the new generation of young people that we want to build in our tertiary institutions. One of the things that we've pledged ourselves to do is that in whatever we do in our tertiary education, we want to build out the bridge to commercialization, which is what they have done. So that every single child who comes to BCC, SJPI, whatever, that they are going to get the support and the training in entrepreneurship. They're going to learn about intellectual property. They're going to learn about how to market. And what we want to do is to build those bridges, as was rightly shared by Minister Blackman, with the requisite institution or party or partner that they can work with to get there. One of the things we do have to do is to make sure that we develop the funding to give them the support to do the fullest possible development of this, and then help them to identify other products that we can design that can help to transform Barbados by giving Barbadian children things that help to build their values, help to build their character. So I'm very, very pleased with the two of you, and I will be calling your principal before I get home and tell her how well her students have been representing the wonderful work you're doing. Thank you so much. So much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Minister Husbands. And just one more thing, I want to also have a word from our teachers, a very vital part of the education system. So while I give full kudos to the students, I also think we need to give the kudos to the teachers sometimes. So without further ado.
All the time. Thank you very much. My name is Miss Lane. I am one of the tutors of the Barbados Community College in Small Business and Entrepreneurship. And tonight I feel so proud. And I really want you to give them another round of applause. Actually, the group consists of 6, the team, right? But only 2 could make it. And I feel really good that these 2 could really carry the flag for the others. And I want to say that I am proud because so many times we have these brilliant ideas coming out from the entrepreneurship. And I want to thank Tayer, especially because, you know, they go by the wayside because there's nobody really to give that support. So we hope that this is the first of many to come. And I really am thankful. Thank you very much.
So again, thank you so much, Shamika and Kenisha. And I think, as your teacher would have said, hopefully you are the first, but you are not the last. So thank you once again. A round of applause for them, please. So at this point, we're going to move on to our next speaker. I'm going to ask Mr. Paul Bentham to come take the mic. Paul? There we go.
Paul, you have some big shoes to fill.
Good evening, everyone. And welcome to St. George, the best place to live. I grew up in St. George in the 70s. I remember we moved from Speightstown to St. George 1970. And the enchanting gullies of St. George were my playground, our playground, those who lived in Newbury. And those who lived in Ellerton, we would traverse the gullies to get to those districts to play cricket matches. I don't know if Minister Sutherland remembers those days, but certainly Roger, we were just talking about that. But I just making the point that the rich culture of St. George is something that we need to tap back into, just as across the parishes. And this whole regathering exercise emphasized that we need to regain the structures that work for us, obviously tweaking them to a modern context. And I specifically want to speak of the rich heritage of the sporting infrastructure in St. George. And I see High Commissioner Clark here. Volleyball is a critical part of St. George. And I want to suggest that as the Ministry of Sports has just spent $30 million, I think was earmarked, in infrastructure around the island, I want to suggest that we don't have no beach, but we want beach volleyball in St. George, because that's our heritage, all right? We've had the rich tradition of Progressive and Draxall dominating back in the day, and we have some athletic young men who really should be involved in, well, I say volley, we're focusing on volleyball, all right? We are very happy for this court that we're sitting on right now. We thank the government for building out this infrastructure. It is heavily used. I think yesterday, for example, was a prime example of it being the preferred place to come to do sports. And we want to build on that, right? Because this is who we are. The rich heritage in terms of sports will indeed, we know the social benefits of getting our young people involved in sports and recreating the structures that will allow them to go to the next level, become global citizens with Bajan roots. So we may not necessarily get a volleyball team to the Olympics, but I think just on the sports news this evening, I heard that in the youth Norseca championships, two of our teams did very well. One placed 9th, and in beach volleyball. So I think that there is scope for us to have a beach volleyball court, not just at the gymnasium, but here in St. George, right? So we're going to be advocating for that. Another thing I want to in terms of sports, I heard the Prime Minister has made reference to the building out of the initiative block cricket in terms of which Courtney Brown will take the lead in. I remember a year or so ago at a funeral I spoke to Mr. Brown, and he was very excitedly told me about this initiative that I'm glad to hear that it's coming on stream. I think that our cricketing heritage is something that we need to milk. We don't do enough of it. We have, yes, nights in terms of the legends and so on, but the structure of cricket, the way it brings people together, the emphasis of a whole village coming out to watch, this is something that is, germane and inherent and endemic to St. George, and just as in other communities. So I'm not, I know that is all across the island, but I think that we need to recreate those structures. We need to get back those structures that help in terms of raising a child. I mean, my man Tahir, we play cricket on the beach almost on Sundays there at Brown Beach, right? So we know the value of how it brings people together and so on. So I want us to just, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're using the structures in terms of how we bring them out together. Finally, I think we've all been struggling with the antisocial behavior that we've been seeing. And as a one-time probation officer, I want to suggest that nationally, the structure of the probation department needs to be revamped. The emphasis on supervision has taken a back seat, where persons who are placed on court orders are not necessarily given the type of intervention that they need. So I think that the leadership there so definitely needs to reconnect with the whole idea of how we can connect with the community and how we can use the structures, use lots of our citizens can provide mentorship, provide leadership for our young people. So there must be that element in terms, it still takes a village to raise a child, and we still have to reach out into our communities. So I think that it's important that we do that in terms of redirecting the next generation of young people into social functioning and really becoming their best selves. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Paul, just one question before you go, and one comment. I really applaud you for the idea, and I know we've discussed that in a different forum in terms of the persons on remand and access to programs. So I commend you for raising that here as well. But where do you propose this beach volleyball thing in St. George? What's your recommendation there?
It's called beach volleyball.
No, I mean, you understand it, like how they're doing at the gymnasium.
Right.
Okay? So where do you propose it being in St. George?
Where?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If the Minister of Housing is there, I'm sure he will help us to locate a place. Well, yeah, I was thinking St. Jude's, right? Right on the border between North and South. Yeah. All right. Don't fight with that. We can get it. We just want it. We just want it.
No, I just want an idea as to where you propose it, because you're a man from St. George and stuff like that. So I just want the idea of where, so that the persons that making notes can get the idea.
I think it takes the pressure off of previous politicians who have promised to bring the beaches in George. We can have beach volleyball. We set up a beach volleyball.
Well, Paul, they often say, Paul, it sounds impossible till it's done. So you might be right. Paul, thank you for that one. Thank you. Everyone, please give Paul a round of applause. Thank you. So at this point, I'd like to move on. We have a next speaker, Marcia Rogers. Marcia, are you with us?
Please give Marcia a big round of applause. Welcome.
Good night, everyone. My name is Marcia, as mentioned before, and I live in the farm. When I say the farm, they're like Farm Road. No, not Farm Road. So I say Farm Estates, so you will know exactly where I am. I'm also a returning national to Barbados, and my Prime Minister doesn't know, but she was very inspirational in having her town hall meeting in Brooklyn, New York a few years ago, encouraging us to move back, to give back to the country. Thank you very much. Now, when I came back, I attended St. Luke's Church in Brighton, and I recognized that there was a need for reading. So I initiated a reading program at St. Luke's Brighton, where I volunteered twice a week. I was awarded a citation for education and community service, so I'm here to give back. So it was very disturbing that there are children who cannot even write their names. So that really hurts. As a person that education is close and children are close to my heart, I said, no, I have to give all that I have back to my community and to those little kids. So that's the issue. Now, I would like to see more parental engagement and community engagement, more volunteers to come into the school and to assist with these little children. They really need your help. I'm very brief, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Marcia. I really want to commend you for coming home and giving back as well. So as you may know, there's the National Literacy Program. So I would encourage you to perhaps get into contact with them. I know both ministers within education are here. Dr. Henry, I believe it is the head of the National Literacy Program. and they do lots of community work. So I would encourage you to perhaps have a conversation with her. We'll take your contact and try to get her number to you. And they do lots of work in communities, and they have volunteers with them from UE, from BCC as well, partnering with them. So perhaps you can engage with them, tell them about your program, and thereafter they can perhaps offer some support to you and to the persons that need it the most. Because literacy in Barbados is definitely top of mind and needed in this time.
Yeah, Tahir, just want to add to your point. This is the second presentation we've had tonight that has dealt with some aspect of reading. And sometimes, you know, I'd still consider us young people, but sometimes the art or the importance of reading seems to be lost on the younger generations, and I can admit that. But reading is one of those things that is so critical to, you know, opening your mind to different ways of thinking, to different ways of understanding. And when you begin to understand the value and the impact of that, then, you know, the sky is really the limit in terms of what you're able to achieve. So, again, I'd just like to commend you, Marcia, for sharing with us. And to the young people, again, I will go back to you and say thank you for opening the floor with your ideas with respect to reading. So we will move on steadily because we do have a few speakers. The next one we have listed is Mr. Ronald Lashley. Ronald, are you still with us here? I see Ronald coming.
Yeah, good night. I'm Ronald Ashley. I hail from Allerton in the beautiful parish of St. George. So welcome to St. George. My idea tonight is a bit on education. We, the people of St. George, we are very proud of our only secondary school, St. George Secondary School. And we have seen over the years how that school has developed. And now it has become a preferred school by a number of Barbadians. I can remember some years ago, we had suggested that that school be renamed. And I think that it is time that we do something about the renaming of the school. We have suggested that the school be renamed the Louis Tell Secondary School. Louis Tell, a former MP for St. George, a former Minister of Education. He was the one responsible for sending the 14-year-olds back to school. And I think as the school is progressing, I think the renaming of that school to the Louis Tell School will do a lot to lift its prestige. And I am looking forward for the day the school is renamed. And I was thinking that now we are gathering in St. George, this will be a good time to rename that school. Now I'm on education. I will look at primary schools. I find a number of primary schools in St. George, actually across Barbados, in the country districts. The numbers are diminishing. They are getting less and less. We realize that parents now want to send their children to the elitist primary schools, that is what I call them. Schools like Luther Thorne, Wesley Hall, Charles F. Broome, and the country schools are being neglected. So I'm hoping that the education reform, we will look at some way of keeping the primary school students at schools in their districts, right? I think this is something we should actively look at, because we have schools around here with 90, 80, 100 students. And I think if we are to build our community spirit, I think the students should be attending schools in their community. So I would suggest that we do something about that, having the students, as far as possible, remain in their districts, where the schools are. Because we can't afford to build schools and then allow them to deteriorate. No numbers, no activity, nothing at all. So I'm requesting that that be looked at. Another suggestion which I want to give is the traffic congestion at the Turnpike Junction. That's becoming a headache. We see on mornings in rush hour traffic. We have traffic from the junction right up past Brighton, right up to Allerton. And it's causing a lot of confusion. And we also have a number of accidents too at that junction. So I'm suggesting that we look at building a roundabout there. If you can't build a roundabout, do something to alleviate traffic lights or something to alleviate that congestion. So I'm hoping that my suggestions will be taken seriously. And I'm looking forward to the improvement I've spoke about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lashley. And I'd like to assure you, as you would have asked, that your suggestions be taken seriously. We make a note of every suggestion taken tonight, and you will have someone from the team contact you just to discuss some of the ideas. So we do have a few speakers, and so I'm going to ask that as you come up and you make your presentations, not that you keep it brief, but you keep it to the point so that we give the audience an opportunity as well if they do want to share or reflect on what you have said. So that being said, we will move on to our next speaker. We have a Tariq Lord. Oh, I see you, Tariq.
Hi, good night. Hi, my name is Tariq Lord. I am an instructor under the Gateway program. I'm an instructor for painting, sticking, and trial plastic. Graduation was on Saturday, and some of the members are here was there, and the excitement of the students graduating with their certificates brought me here. We have two programs that photovoltaic, which is solar panels. The course has not gone on this year because the registrations were low, and very well installation. I spend my days going from block to block, coming from Black Rock to Ellerton, talking to the youngsters. And I think we need to promote the Gateway program more and more advertisement. I have been told that the youngsters do not want to do anything, but going from block to block, from Rice C to Ellerton, I have got a lot of people signing up. But I am here to say photovoltaic is something very important, and is the direction Barbados will be going in. And to have no students there is a problem, in my opinion. And very well installation with the hotels that we have going up is a material that used in the hotels, and it's very decorative. Even our low-income people, instead of using wood, they are using the drywall. And if we have no people to put it up, is a problem, in my opinion. So what I'm asking for more advertisement. We have the NTA on Wednesday. Maybe we can, on the radio, maybe we can have a session every Wednesday promoting the Gateway program and promoting the classes. We have a very full class on the popular, the tiling, plumbing, cabinet making, extremely full. Students are being turned away, but we have classes that we need to be promoted. My last painting class, I had 5 students. 6 originally, but 1 dropped out because of personal problems. This class now, we have more people. It began on Saturday, so I don't know how much people will fill out, but I think we need more people into this program. It is helping a lot of young people. I have spoke to some of the instructors, and we're having students going into the fields right from the program, starting at $150 a day to train. So that's how serious our construction workers are willing to give our trainees $150 a day with 72 hours of experience. So I think we need to promote it some more. Thank you very much.
So, Tariq,
yes, please.
I really commend you. for coming up and speaking about the construction gateway. I was at the graduation
Yes,
as
you
well.
were.
We had a brief conversation.
Mhm.
From your perspective, how beneficial is the construction gateway for students? I want you to make a marketing pitch for right now.
It's very important. We have people that may be lost at home and coming into this program and falling in love with these programs. If you saw the excitement on the students' face and hugging up their instructors, thanking them for giving the opportunity, we call it a second chance. And they take it with their hands and run with it. We need more promotion. Madam Prime Minister, I know it's your brainchild, and I need you to promote it some more loud and clear. Thank you. Okay.
Give Tariq a round of applause.
Yes, please.
Tariq, before you go, I applaud you as well. And as a person who, outside of being the MP
Yes, please.
for St. George North,
I was at your constituency office.
I live and breathe
Yes.
labor.
Yes.
And one of the things I'm really pleased about
Mhm.
is that you are promoting this, but what I note with interest is that you said that as you traverse from block to block, you were interested to find the amount of people
Yes.
that were interested in signing on programs. We feel very comfortable sometimes saying that we don't have the skills or we have a skill shortage. The Construction Gateway is one of those programs and one of those avenues through which a lot of people, young people in particular, can develop the kinds of skills to assist even now with our construction boom. I am one that am not comfortable at all with saying simply that we have a skill shortage. It is true that our population is dwindling. It is true that we may have to import skills, but the people that I will see coming to me and saying that they want to work, but they don't have the skill, and who I know will be interested in learning. And I was just commenting to the ministers. There are people who are not going to, if they see the program of the Construction Gateway advertised in the newspaper, they are not going to see it there because they're not going to go there. There are people who the algorithms on their IGs, their Instagram and thing, ain't going to take them there. So what Tariq and others are doing by taking the program to people, making them aware and signing them up. Yeah. And the program that Marcus does, that program is what again? What it called? The Block Transformation Program. These programs are needed, and we need more volunteers going out there and taking the message to people so that our young people who want work and can do work can find work, and we don't have to be importing work unless we absolutely need it.
Yes, we do. All right, thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much. And I think Minister Husbands also wants to just add to what I think is a very important point. Minister Husbands.
Thank you very much. And Tariq, I'm very pleased that you had the opportunity to be a part of Construction Gateway. We were so pleased on Saturday. There are over 900 who qualified, who completed their training, and some 400 came for that graduation. And they were so excited and moved by having an opportunity to gain certification that can help them get work. Now, I thank you for helping us, because you're right. Promoting it in the traditional places is not getting it into the ears of the people who need to hear about it. And therefore, one of the things I want to ask everybody to do, and certainly all the constituencies, we are starting a new cohort. We want more people to come forward. Now, there are some that are undersubscribed, and we have to find out why people are not attracted to them. What is it we might need to do differently? Then we have some that are oversubscribed. Now, one of the things that hurts my heart is the number of children, young people, we have to turn away from technical and vocational training because we don't have the room. So our team is working right now They have been speaking with all of the secondary schools to identify how many workshops and labs and so on we have on the various school plants. And then what we will be doing is we'll be starting classes at those secondary schools in the evening after school is completed, on Saturdays and so on, as well as in the vacation period. And we are hoping that we can do an additional 800 to 900 students to be able to participate in the programs of the SJPI and BVTB. So help us spread the word and get people calling. We have had quite a few people who actually turn up and say that they want to be in the course. But part of the problem sometimes is that when we try to call people back, they don't have any money on their phone. Or they don't answer it because they don't know who's this person calling me. And this is part of the issue. So we're going to have to find, make a change in our methodology to effectively get back to them, that we can register them and that they can turn up for the classes. But what we do have has been working extremely well, and I'm very pleased with the tutors and instructors, the work that they've been doing, because it means so much to these young people. Thank you.
Minister Husbands, before you go, I just want you to share the story with the public on the fella, the landscaping guy.
Yes.
If you can just share that story.
Yes. At the graduation, they were doing the landscaping group, and we suddenly heard all of this noise. So we thought something had gone wrong, or, you know, people became a little anxious because he was shouting loudly. And then gradually we recognized he was excited. He was excited. And he turned and he told the crowd, "This is the first certificate I have ever gotten in my life, and you can't take it away from me." And people have not stopped talking about it. Up to today, my team was still talking about it because it meant so much to him. This was the first time he was being validated as knowing something and was equal to winning something and being certified. So one of the things we want to do is to encourage people to take other courses. And this is one of the things that we have been looking at. We recognize that short courses are the way to go for young people. Make them short and impactful. We've been looking at using different methods of assessment to move away from exams, but rather give them projects and assess the project and get them certified, and then help them to move on to CBQs and NVQs. Because what we want to do is to turn Barbados into a whole training campus. We must be able to upskill and reskill everybody in Barbados, that we can participate in that fourth industrial revolution that is overtaking the world now. And we are going to be ready, and we are going to do it together. So I'm looking forward to you helping me.
Thank you for that very powerful intervention, Minister Husbands, and compliments to that young man. I'm sorry I couldn't have been there, but your story has touched me, as I'm sure it's touched you as well. At this point, I'd like to invite Minister Griffith, who is our Minister of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, just to share with us. Minister.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, just to share some information, because I heard Minister speaking about the Gateway. This evening, I came from the SJPI, where we did an orientation. 225 students in all of our programs were oversubscribed. 109 males, 118 females are doing programs at the SJPI. Paul would have mentioned to the Prime Minister, speaking in relation to the Block T20. That particular project was also launched this morning at the ministry. We have teams from all over the country that is involved in the process. It is not the regular mainstream cricket, let me put it that way, in the sense that we are trying to attract youngsters from the blocks from 14 to 25 to be involved in the process. There's a $10,000 first prize, but what is more important, or as far as prizes are concerned, every single team will benefit from a $2,000 scholarship to one member of the team who we feel should be able to use that at any of the institutions on the island. In addition to that, similar to the Prime Minister's Cup, life skills will be embedded inside of the program as we roll it out across the country. So that program, you will hear about it coming forward, but that was launched this morning as well in the ministry. I just wanted to share that because Marcus and his team are doing some tremendous work across the island in terms of visiting the same blocks that you heard mentioned before, because we believe that, well, I say second chance, the Prime Minister said first chance. But if you saw 225 youngsters today at SJPI, and you had the principal saying that this is something that is not normal in terms of the volume, they had to keep putting down chairs because people started to come. In addition to that, what was moving for me is that we had several parents that turned up with their children there this evening to ensure that they were involved in the process. So things are happening, Gateway is happening, Project Dawn, through my ministry, the Block Transformation Unit, we're doing things for our young people on island. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Griffith. Just in the interest of time, we have a few more speakers, but I'm going to ask the speakers that do come just to, again, distill your point so that we can ensure that we get clear what you're trying to explain to us, and those who are watching online as well. And with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Don O'Brien Lane. Don, I understand that you have a document you've sent, as you do come up, I understand you have a document you've sent to the Idea Forums team. So I'm going to ask you, just if you can distill your points into two, perhaps your most critical ones. Thanks, Don, I appreciate it.
Good night, everyone. My name is Don Lane. As I said, I will share the document with the Ideas Forum, but what I have here is just a quick summary of what it is. It's a bold idea already in notion. What it's called is Swim for the Seas. It's a national capacity building engine for marine resilience and environmental research and youth innovation. At its core, it's a national program that teaches every Barbadian to swim, to save a life, and to protect the ocean. It's more than that. It's a 5-level certification assessment program. We aim to not only assess how many persons are learning to swim, but what levels they're swimming at. And through this, we can blend, It's a 5-level blends aquatic safety, marine science, and entrepreneurship. From flying fish to marlin, each level builds confidence, skills, and career paths. This summer, we're piloting the program with 50 children at Dive Fest. They'll be training at Barbados Blue, exploring coral reefs, earn digital badges, and take part in conservation pledge ceremony. Sorry about that. We're also expanding the pilot into summer camps, including the YMCA summer program, Innovators HQ STEM and Sustainability Camp, to ensure a broader reach across parishes and learning styles. And this work builds on a strong foundation. Through my leadership in the Swim for Life program, delivered in partnership with the National Sports Council, we've already reached hundreds of Barbadians learning to swim, hundreds of children. At this point, we're at a total of 1,500 children and persons already taught how to swim. What I'm proposing is a next step to that, where we add conservation, certification, and career pathways to a lifelong living foundation. What we're asking is the appointment of a National Aquatic Directorate to unify training and safety across the island, access to pools and coastal sites, so no child is left behind, and for Swim for Seas being adopted as a national flagship program, because marine resilience starts with people who are confident in the water and connected to the sea. Barbados can lead the region in aquatic education, youth empowerment, and marine conservation, but only if we invest in our people, starting now. Let's make sure the next generation doesn't just visit the ocean, but let's make sure they belong to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I really want to thank you. You know, the Prime Minister often says that Barbados is a large ocean state. Yes, and so we do certainly have, I believe, quite much use for a program such as that. So I would probably invite you to also have a word with our Minister of Youth, Sports, and Community Empowerment and perhaps see if there are any synergies that we can build out in that regard. So once again, thank you for coming and sharing with us, Don. Really appreciate it. So very quickly, we're going to move on to what I have as our second last speaker, Anderson Spencer.
Very good night to one and all. My name is Anderson Spencer, and I live in Newberry, St. George. Just like the other speakers that came up here earlier where they said they lived in St. George, I'm born and bred in St. George, and like the great plastic bag said, I ain't going nowhere. It's here, I intend to stay, and if it rise or fall, I ain't leaving St. George at all. All right? So I came here tonight really with many things to say, but I can just stick to 3 points. And one of those things I'm going to start with is basically the area just here to my right, which is your left, the junction at the GLEBE. Now, there's a lot of challenges there on morning with the traffic moving. And as you can see, persons turning right onto the GLEBE Hill faces a lot of challenges in terms of the traffic coming up from Charro Bridge, those that want to turn right onto this road, and those coming down the hill, which obviously doesn't care about who is coming out from that junction. Now, there have been many accidents at this junction. I can't recall if there's any deaths, but a little while ago, just about 3 years or so, a little boy got knocked down just in this area from that St. George Primary School. Now, there was a little roundabout which they had placed in this area a couple of years ago, which helped to ease some of the traffic at this junction, because at peak times, that is where you really get the problem. All right? Now, the little roundabout, it worked, but there were challenges for those vehicles and 4x4s which tend to make the turn to go back up the hill. My proposal for this particular junction is that the heavy-duty equipment, like the heavy trucks, containers, and so forth, if we had to change this junction into one which allows smaller vehicles to come down and turn and go back up, those trucks will have to make the right turn if they're coming from the Carmichael Junction onto Jordan Road, go around. But the challenge there is when you get to the primary school, the Workman's Primary School, because it is an area where children obviously traverse. Now, caution has to be taken. And if they turn right at the left at the primary school, they're going to come back just above here at Workman's Junction, just above Tate Hill. Now, the next point is that those coming from Dash Valley, heavy equipment, they will then have to make the next left turn here by the farm, goes through that road and pick back up the same road. But on that road, there are some sharp corners and bends, which, of course, infrastructure will have to be put in place in terms to take on that kind of traffic, right? One of the things is that the traffic that congests there, we can use a traffic warden for those peak times. But then there's another challenge with when the rain falls, who's going to stand up in the rain and direct traffic, all right? Now, using a traffic light, that creates a little congestion sometimes. But one of the things is that persons need to approach these junctions with caution. I think that we need to place some road signs coming from as far up as Tate Hill, alerting traffic to reduce the speed, so at least down to 40 kilometers, because that will help to eliminate some of the accidents that you have here at this junction. I don't use this junction when it's peak time because it's too dangerous. Persons don't care about you trying to get out. And I think that we need some road signs coming down this hill to encourage traffic to slow down. And there's also the need for some traffic coming up, going up the hill, to be aware that there are persons making a right turn from on this road up the hill. All right? Now, my second point is still on the areas of critical junctions, and this is in the area.
Not to interrupt you, but your second, I think you have 3 points you said you want to make.
Yeah, but I'm going to continue with the first one.
You want to continue the first one?
I'm going to finish it quickly.
Time is of the essence as well, so if you keep it very, very tight,
Okay.
very much
All right.
appreciated.
Now, at the junction at Carmichael, the same thing needs to happen there coming from Ellerton, and the Honorable Dwight Sullivan would know this, because for a very long time, guys come off of that hill, approach that junction with all the speed they have, and they don't care. So we need some road signs. Possibly at Carmichael Junction, you're going to need to install a camera to monitor that junction. Yes, a roundabout will help, but in the initial stages, that's going to take some time. All right? My second point is in terms of rural Barbados, and this is in the areas of persons parking along the street. Now, in the area of Lower Burney, if you leave Map Hill gas station going to Bussa roundabout, and you make the left turn into Lower Burney, you will see that that street has a whole set of cars parked on the right-hand side. Now, that is chaos on mornings when traffic's trying to go through there as a shortcut to get onto the other side. What I would like to suggest is that for the future going forward in these areas is that homes would be built more on pillars, which would allow for parking at the bottom of these houses. Or, with government and town and country planning, they will make the necessary arrangements that when persons develop their land, that they have at least a parking area to take vehicles off of the street to allow for emergency vehicles and other vehicles to pass easily. My final point is in the Gun Hill area. Now, this is a tourist attraction location, and I use it to exercise. It's a very lovely place, but the problem is that for very long, you have the lot of trees and the bush overgrown up there. That area could be developed into a nice mini park, and persons could use this to relax. Tourists could come and relax, and the wider Barbados will get to enjoy this location. It's a very, very good location, and if developed, we in St. George could use it and enjoy it. And I thank you.
And I thank you as well, Mr. Spence. I think you're probably speaking for many people when you've raised some of the points there. So thank you for being brief as well, but being also very explanatory in what you're trying to get across. And we have our final speaker for the night. I'm going to invite to the microphone Jessica Oda Baril. Jessica, the microphone is yours, and the floor is yours to close out.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our parish. I am very sorry if you all are not from about here, but this really is the best parish in the world for many, many reasons. I won't go into all the details now, but I thank you for Tyre and Alex for allowing me a brief moment at the microphone. In 1997 or thereabouts, the Crown compulsory acquired lands across from Walker's, above Mr. Parvacino, and now below what is called Odell Glen, I believe. It was an area which housed Fair Cottage, which was the residence of my grandparents, and where the post office used to operate way back in the day, and I have photos to show it. That land became a rat haven, is all I could call it. And just last week was cleared, and I spoke to Paul. I said, Paul, we're going to finally get something happening there. That land, that particular portion where the house once stood, was to have been developed by the Soroptimist International for a village that would house youth and elderly in a community-type fashion. It's been well over maybe 30 years now. And I am putting out for consideration to Soroptimists, to whichever government department, to whatever collaborative could come together to create a space where young women have an opportunity to, quote unquote, catch themselves, because there are a lot of young women out there who are about to be homeless. I'm not going to get into the social dynamic of it, but it exists. And if they are homeless, we have greater social problems to confront. And so I am putting out for discussion, perhaps the Soroptimists will find the resources to re-energize that village-type concept, because women, young women in particular, need that gap to give them some strength and support for developmental of self, both emotional and physical, while they can catch themselves and become continuing meaningful members of this society. I say that because Fair Cottage was once a place where people gathered and their needs were met from all strata of society. And only in this room perhaps are mostly young people, but the older Barbadian St. George people knew what Fair Cottage meant to the community at the time. And I yearn to see it again, and I certainly will do my part within reason and want to put it out there, Minister and MP, that we could perhaps get Sir Optimus back on target, but get on target with their project and expand it further as a village concept to include young women who are really on the cusp of not good things. I want to end by endorsing Andy, the previous speaker, with respect to all of the various locations where, as you say, we can't say how many, if any, deaths, but it could be because people really don't care about here, they don't care about up the Carmichael Road, and finally, Charro Bridge, same thing, because we've not learned who get to the stop first gets to go. Everybody won't go at the same time. I'm surprised we haven't had more accidents. Thank you very much.
And thank you as well, Jessica. I pray that your suggestions do not fall on deaf ears, but I think that all those who are listening perhaps have taken much from you and from every speaker that we've had tonight. So I want to commend you all for sharing, commend you for listening, commend you for coming out. At this point, I'd like to just hand over to our two MPs just to share brief remarks, and after such, we will hear from the Prime Minister as well. So MPs, the floor is yours.
Let's save the best for last. Tony will go last, and she's at home. Good night, all. Welcome to St. George. You know what I would say? I'm not going to boast too much about St. George, but what I will say to you tonight is, if you need good ideas, come to St. George. And you heard them tonight. It was a privilege to listen, especially to Miss Hunt. I know Miss Hunt from primary school days. I recall some 13 years ago, you were in class 4 at St. Luke's, Brighton Primary School. And now to see you develop into such a wonderful young lady, that speaks volume. And I will not join anyone in saying because we are experiencing some challenges, minor challenges as it relates to crime, that we have lost a young generation. We have not. Because you can see the talent here tonight from St. George, the young people. And I join you, Sandra, in commending the Gateway program. Now, Tahir, before I get into the renewable energy aspect, I'll be short. We started the Swim for Life. Prime Minister Motley is here. She asked, at that point in time, we had the Ministry of the Blue Economy, Ministry of the Environment, and yours truly was the Minister of Sports then. And we started that Swim for Life program. I know Mr. Griffith will do his utmost best to ensure that we carry on that program as a vintage program. But I want to end off on the renewable energy aspect, what I heard tonight from the young man with respect to no persons being interested in renewable energy coming out of the Gateway program. He didn't say persons are not interested, and I share the member for St. George North, my colleagues' point in that we have to go to the blocks. While we recognize the importance of social media, the importance of Instagram, and the necessary technological tools that we have, you have to go to the blocks. Only yesterday, I usually get my car washed in the north, actually. My classmate, he does the car washing there, and he graduated on Sunday, I think, through the Gateway initiative in the area of plumbing. And he said to me, we gathering, we're doing well, but one of the things that we should have done is to go around to the blocks, give out some flyers, because some persons don't listen, don't watch Morning Barbados. Some persons don't even go on Instagram. And while I support the technological drive by the Ministry of Education and the various ministries, I believe there's still room for the ground game where we go from village to village and speak to people. Because some of the guys, like you said earlier, that I think Sandra said it, they don't have any money on their phones. So when you send them a message from a landline or a call from a landline, sorry, they don't see it. Some of them, if they're not in Wi-Fi, they don't see it. So we have to embrace this block program by the Ministry of Sports and indeed through the Ministry of People's Empowerment and Health Affairs to get our young people, those that are challenged, into these fundamental programs. Renewable energy, I will end on. As an engineer, I see a lot of scope for maintenance, procurement, and construction in that area. And it is the only way we can drive the cost of renewable energy down in this country. We have to scale up or upscale not 10 or 15 persons. And colleague Sandra, we have to upscale 2,000 young men. Because when we do that, that's the only way we can drive the cost down. They have to compete against each other for the work. Maintenance, procurement, and construction of renewable energy systems. What is going on in the world will tell us that we have to focus there as a government. And I know we are doing that. But we have to scale, more scale. Not 10 or 15 through the gateway, but we have to go on the blocks. I am certain, and Tony whispered it to me, I'm certain if you go on the blocks and you ask young men and you tell them you can make money from renewable energy, not from picking up a gun, but you can go across the Caribbean. You can go across the Caribbean through maintenance, procurement, and construction of renewable energy systems. And that is what I want to end on. Having said that, though, Ronald, I heard you about the turnpike, and I want to put a plug in here because I think it was then Minister Duguid who prepared designs for the roundabout at the turnpike. We can't do everything one time. We're doing a roundabout at Windsor, and that will come to, I don't want to say where, but we have the designs, we have the approvals, and that should start shortly. But we can't be one at Sweet Bottom also. We know that is a very challenging junction. So we can't do all one time. So bear with us, Ronald. The designs are finished, and we'll get to each of them hopefully within the very near future. And I want to say, with respect to the St. George Secondary School, that too is being looked at. I recall at a national conference that was proposed by yours truly as a resolution on the floor. I think it was 2 years ago at a conference in Queen's Park. And I know Prime Minister Motley and the general executive body embraced the idea or the concept of having St. George Secondary School renamed after Sir Louis Tull. Indeed, he brought the 14-year-olds back to school. Now, for me to come here tonight and not say to you that the gathering has been a success. St. George is very unique. The traditions and the heritage of what I've seen, you know, the programs I want to compliment the members of the parish organizing committee, also the national organizing committee. We had some successful events to showcase the traditions. I truly love the importance of gullies. St. George has one of the longest gullies in Barbados. And most of you don't know this from St. George. Gullies stretching from Fairview in the north of St. George straight to Buckley Factory. And the importance of gullies, I think Paul mentioned it, is critical to our eco-tourism and our eco-biodiversity. And I want to say to you that the gully roast that we had in the farm was not just about roasting breadfruit, but to let people know that the importance of gullies, not only to the marine environment and the wastewater runoff, taking the water back to the aquifer, but indeed to generate economic activity in this country. We heard about the go-karting. As a young boy, I went to the mount and I rode on a go-kart. And that's the truth. And I would hope that as we end off the gathering in St. George, that we do it safely and we allow the persons who brought the idea to us, and we took all ideas into the process of indeed coming up with the best plan for St. George. And I indeed would hope that we do it in a safe manner, and that persons don't only ask for these things, but they come out and they take part, because they think there is a monetary reward, and I look forward to being there and enjoying that aspect. As well as Saturday, we have our marquee event. I don't know where it is, but I want every single one of you. We have one or two areas. Either the final place is unknown to me right now, whether it's Buckley Factory, it is St. George Secondary, it is Brighton.
Brighton?
It is at Brighton? Is that Brighton? Wonderful. And the theme of the land, we have Brighton Farmers Market, and it is a good way and a good place to have a marquee project because we are looking over the St. George Valley, which has the most fertile land in St. George and in Barbados. I thank you for coming out. God bless each and every one of you. Over to you, Tony. You are at home.
Never trust a short man when he says he's going to be short. So I came in earlier to speak on a specific issue, but I also want to commend everyone for coming forward and presenting what I believe are some very useful ideas. On New Year's Day, I stood up almost on this spot, and I made a comment in the center is where the action is, and we saw a bit of it here tonight. But I want to speak specifically on, well, I want to commend the young ladies from the program that spoke about the game. The only thing that I wanted was a little snapshot into it. I was there like, man, this game can come out and, yeah, see how you were starting and so on. So thank you for piquing our interest in it and so on. And the young girl there, Naomi, who had to leave for school, I believe, who really introduced 5 very useful points to us tonight. Jessica on Odell's Glen, I don't believe that the High Commissioner to Canada, His Excellency, would be very pleased with me if I then let you know that that land, yes, it was to be leased, right, to the Seroptimus group, and to express on his behalf and my own behalf the expectation that as the Cabinet of Barbados considers where they will set up the first 3 Seroptimus villages, not Seroptimus villages, senior citizens villages, that the Cabinet would consider that Odell's Glen, that was already earmarked for that, which I have had the honor to complement previous statements by the former Member of Parliament on the floor of Parliament, I myself, in 2021 and again in 2023, that the Cabinet of Barbados would see it fit to utilize that as one of the first 3. I can speak because I'm not in the Cabinet of Barbados, but I can say so for them. And then for the issue of safety, the roundabouts and so on, we do appreciate that we can't do everything at once, but there's certainly a need. And Dwight, I thank you for also remembering the roundabout that is committed at Groves, because as recently as today, where is he? There was an accident there that someone drew to my attention where a car coming from St. Joseph's side having to ease out, as you know how you have to ease out, and then a car coming up from town was forced across the road, and people left there in collars and so on, and injuries that shouldn't have to be sustained. So we hope that we can make haste and do those. And then finally, I just add my voice. We have the countdown is on. Today is Monday. We hand over to St. Philip in 7 days' time, and to urge all of us to come out and make the rest of the events in the calendar for St. George a success. I am looking forward to them because most of this month, my other duties required me to be in Geneva, so I am very, very excited to be picking up on the cricket. Tomorrow, the netball at Market Hill, the netball matches that will now be played during the Sunday event. The go-kart, I was very, very happy because we had to push real hard for that go-kart. And to hear from the videos and everything that everybody connected to that being a St. George thing. So we really look forward to seeing you out at Brighton on Saturday, but on Sunday, we look forward to seeing you here for our afternoon of events, a family fun afternoon where we will feature the go-kart races. And thanks to all the young men, over 30, I understand, who have signed up. So we are looking forward to a really good time. God bless you.
Just want to quickly thank both MPs for sharing some updates with us. And at this point, I'd like to invite, if any comments from the Prime Minister, as she's would like to address us this evening. Okay. Everyone, just give a round of applause for the Prime Minister as she comes. Thank you. Okay, no worries, understood. Well, at this point, I would like to thank again everyone for being here tonight. It's been a truly inspiring opportunity for me to come into St. George, not being a St. George person, but I feel almost now like if I'm part of the family. So that's as much as the job you've done. Thank you, MP. So, yes, I'll be back for some ideas, and I'm sure everyone here in person, everyone watching online certainly feels the same way. So with that, I would like to just encourage you next month. We have to St. Philip with the Wee Gathering. Enjoy the rest of the events in St. George. Make sure that you keep your eyes peeled to the calendar to see what's happening in St. Philip. And I will see you there for the next Ideas Forum when the date is announced. So on behalf of myself and my co-host Tahir, again, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I will just wish you a safe journey home. Thank you.